John Lewis was one of very few people who really remained consistent and true to my father's nonviolent philosophy and methodology. He was a true nonviolent warrior through and through, and a very pure heart. There are very few pure-hearted people in this world, and he was a pure-hearted man. His only motive was to stand up for what was right, to speak for those who could not speak for themselves. It was never about him. It was always about the struggle, the cause, and justice and freedom. And we lost these kind of leaders. Wow,
Bernice,
we're losing them. Yes.
Yes. Bernice, I want to listen, considering who you are, who your father was, I think it's appropriate to play this moment and get your reaction. This is John Lewis getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom from the first black president, February 15, 2011. Let's play it.
All these years later, he is known as the conscience of the United States Congress, still speaking his mind on issues of justice and equality. And generations from now, when parents teach their children what is meant by courage, the story of John Lewis will come to mind. An American who knew that change could not wait for some other person or some other time, whose life is a lesson in the fierce urgency of now.
That moment, Bernice, it gave me chills. And that not only meant, I'm sure, a whole heck of a lot to John Lewis, but it meant a lot to the world to see this, in a way, a passing of the torch and then passing it back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And often when I am talking around this nation and the world, and I speak about one of my father's principles of nonviolence that we teach at the King Center, unearned suffering is redemptive. I always talk about John Lewis and what happened to him on that bridge. He didn't even know, couldn't even imagine that he would one day serve in Congress, first of all, when he was fighting for that right. And not only that, serving under the first African-American president and serving under him for 2 terms. That's what you call unearned suffering being redemptive. And he epitomized it.
Bernice, thank you so much. It means a lot that you called in to share your thoughts on this, and my thoughts are with your family as well, because I know he's a very good friend of your family, and as you call him Uncle John, you take care of yourself, you be safe, and hopefully I can see you soon once this is all over.
Yes, and rest in peace, Uncle John.
Rest in peace. We'll be right back.
Fought a good fight.
Amen.
Yes.
Here's our breaking news tonight. The nation mourning the death of Congressman John Lewis at the age of 80, a giant in the civil rights movement who, by his own count, was arrested more than 40 times during his days of activism. He was born the son of sharecroppers and went on to serve more than 30 years in Congress. He passed today after a 6-month battle with cancer. I want to bring in now Dana Bash and April Ryan. But first, Dana Bash had an extraordinary interview with John Lewis on the Edmund Pettus Bridge on the 53rd anniversary of Selma. Let's listen.
This is sacred. This is hollow. This is where people gave some blood. I gave a little blood on this bridge.
53 years after you all marched on this bridge, why is it so important to come back and to keep coming back every year?
This is the place that gave us the Voting Rights Act, made it possible for hundreds and thousands and millions of people to be able to participate in the democratic process.
You led a movement of young people back in the civil rights movement. There's a new organic movement of young people begging Washington, begging their local leaders for change. What do you see in the new movement?
Oh, I see so much hope.
Thank you.
It was March 7th, 1965, that John Lewis marched across this bridge on Bloody Sunday. He got to the other side, and he was met by a billy club. But every year, almost every year since, he has been walking across, bringing people from all stripes, from all parties, all races and religions, to come here to experience this with him. He's got a Republican leader on his left, Kathy McMorris Rogers. He's got a Democratic senator on his right. Just listen.
Thank you, John Lewis. Thank you, John Lewis.
It takes a John Lewis to bring us all together and to just remind us that progress, is elusive. Every generation has to fight for it.
Compromise is the hallmark of America.
It is.
That's how we came to be a country. And we somehow lost the ability to do that in certain issues. Mm-hmm. So I think it's like inspiration to go back from here, back to Washington, and say, okay, let's try again. Because it may take several times before we get the compromise.
For young people who are just learning about your dad and about what he led, what is the most important thing for them to take away?
I think the most important thing is to understand the concept of nonviolence. Many are very, very proud of the young people in Parkland who are leading, not following and waiting for something to happen.
This 3-day civil rights pilgrimage not only crossed over party lines, it crossed generations. Teenagers also came on this journey. Charlotte Potes was one of them.
How can we wrestle with our parents in a way that's respectful so we can aid them in seeing that normal children can fight in the movement and fight for justice as well?
Tell them that you've been touched by the spirit of history.
As someone who successfully led a movement as a young person, what's your number one bit of advice for the young people protesting and marching this month?
Just give it all you got and not get weary. Be hopeful, be optimistic, and take the long, hard look. We had some difficulty. They will have some difficulty. They will have some setbacks, but you cannot give up. You cannot give in. You will make it. They will lead us.